way from Venice, where the 77th Venice Film Festival is taking place. I'm joined by our film critic, Emma Jones, and some delightful Italian music. Emma, hello.
Hello.
Hello. This is the first international film festival to take place since the health crisis, and there's a very different vibe here this year.
For sure. Venice is normally the place where we find Oscar winners. If you think that Gravity, Birdman, The Shape of Water, all these films were launched at the Venice Film Festival. This year, because of what has happened, it's got a very different vibe. There are very few North American films here. One of them is Nomadland by Chloe Zhao. Now that's hotly tipped for the Oscars, but it inevitably has an incredibly European feel because European directors are really the only people that can travel. And of course, also very stringent health checks. So temperature checks wherever we go. There's a strict booking system so that the theatres can only be half full at best. And of course, we're all socially distancing and wearing masks wherever possible. But thank goodness the festival's going ahead. That's really the thing that we're all saying.
And there are 60 new films from 50 different countries, despite all of the restrictions in place. Let's take a look at some of the highlights.
A surreal red carpet experience as Hollywood glamour meets social distancing. The first international film festival to go ahead post-COVID, Venice's Mostra festival marks a reopening for the industry with regular temperature checks, socially distanced screenings, and some seriously stylish face masks.
It's dreamlike. It's strange to see the red carpet so different from other years.
All the women on the red carpet held their masks like this. If someone can invent a mask that protects makeup, they'll make a lot of money.
On the billing, Tilda Swinton's latest film, The Human Voice, has been called the ultimate lockdown film. The British actor received a Lifetime Achievement Award on opening night.
I can tell you something of what it means to be here with you tonight. What it means to be in a room with living creatures and a big screen.
With many international movie stars unable to make it, there's been more focus on directors this year. Director Anne Hui also received a Lifetime Achievement Award. She dedicated it to the city of Hong Kong, where she shot her latest film, Love After Love, post-produced during lockdown.
Thank you, Venice, for giving me this encouragement at this difficult time. You do not know what encouragement you are giving to the people of Hong Kong too.
Australian actor Cate Blanchett is this year's president of the jury. A prominent supporter of the Me Too and Time's Up movements, she's praised a new focus on gender equality. The festival's long been criticised for a lack of female directors. Out of 62 films in competition over the previous 3 years, only 4 were made by women. This year, though, nearly half of in-competition films have female directors.
Why am I so pretty?
Regina King's directorial debut was the first film made by an African-American woman to be selected in the festival's history.
Hello again from Venice, where I'm joined by our film critic, Emma Jones. Emma, what are some of your highlights then?
I think that The Duke by Roger Michell, a British director, has to get a mention. It's been getting really good reviews across the board. And this is a really sparkling comedy in the tradition of British Ealing comedies of the 1960s. And possibly it's kind of the tonic that we all need after the 2020 that we've had. It stars Jim Broadbent and Helen Mirren. Great pairing, great combination. And it's based on a true story of a man called Kempton Bunton, who was arrested in the early 1960s for allegedly stealing a Goya portrait of the Duke of Wellington.
How many have you got?
The petition's only one part of the campaign.
3.
Oh, we've just set up.
Kempton Bunton. That's not even a real name.
This is a huge contribution to us, this festival going ahead. It's absolutely fabulous. Tonight, I'll get a chance to see the film in a room with other people for the first time. I've only ever seen it in cutting rooms or in tiny little theatres with 2 or 3 other people. So to hear the film and get a sense of an audience laughing or engaging with it is an incredibly exciting prospect. We need to view things in crowded rooms, not in rooms full of sensible separation. We need to feel conjoined as audiences to experience things in this very special way that as a society we've learned to value, that we need to view things collectively to understand about ourselves.
Well, The Duke is clearly a comedy, something to cheer us up during these times. Yeah. However, there are lots of films dealing with very difficult subjects.
Yeah, and I think that one film that has really affected everybody here at the festival is a film called Quo Vadis Ada, and that's a Bosnian film by a female director, Jasmila Zbanic, and it's basically the story of what happened in Srebrenica in 1995, and it's about a translator who is trapped inside the UN compound and desperately trying to get her family to safety. Now, this is not a cheerful watch. It really packs a punch. It has deeply affected everybody at the festival, and I'm sure that that is going to be one to look out for on awards night.
Where is your commander? Where is your commander?
He's in a meeting with your general.
Civilian? Inside?
Yes, yes.
How many?
About 4,000 or 5,000. Soldiers?
No soldiers.
Another film that gives an incredible performance by the actress Vanessa Kirby. This is a Hungarian production called Pieces of a Woman, and it's about a woman who loses her child. It features an opening scene that's about 45 minutes long of a woman in labour. Yeah, and it really struck me that these are the stories that haven't been told by women and for women really at all. I think this is a real product of the Me Too movement.
Well, it is a very difficult subject matter. I spoke to the team behind the film.
The power. Rawr.
Anita was so jealous.
Oh my goodness, who cares what Anita thinks? What does it matter?
It doesn't matter, it's just...
It doesn't matter at all. That's what matters right there. Look at that thing.
Oh my God. I hadn't really seen a script like that before. I hadn't really seen a film that confronted child loss in that way. It required a lot of prep, a lot of speaking to many, many women who'd been through this. Kelly, the woman that I spoke to for the most amount of time, who was just phenomenal to me in sharing her story, she said, look, whatever you imagine, however bad you imagine it is in your head, it's 1,000,000 times worse than that. And I thought, God, if I can even get even close to what she's expressing, you know, I hope I do her justice for that.
What do you think the message of the film is?
Firstly, that it speaks to women that have been through this, and that it might open up conversations for them where most of them I spoke to said that they found it really hard to talk about, and that society finds it hard to talk about, and even people in their close proximity find it very hard to talk about. And even with Martha and Sean, they have such different experiences, and the mother, that they haven't found a way to talk about it together, so I hope that helps.
Tell me, why did you want to tell this story?
I think I wanted to talk about a taboo, that these women who lose their babies are most of the time in complete isolation, and how society and, in a smaller term, family cannot deal with these situations.
And why Vanessa Kirby?
Because she's amazing. It was an easy decision. So when I met her first time, I felt immediately she's so close to this kind of 70s icons, and her presence and her secret is on screen.
Is this the wrong way around?
That's the right way around.
No, it's upside down.
No, that's how I did it. It was a choice. It's my daughter. Wonky, interesting, charming, intelligent.
Modest.
Modest, humble.
That was from Pieces of a Woman, one of the competition films this year that's dealing with a very difficult subject matter. There are also quite a few documentaries with very strong messages.
Yes, indeed. One of them is Final Accounts by the late director Luke Holland, which is premiering here. This is a work of 10 years where Holland went around interviewing people who had survived the Nazi era, but some who had really collaborated or even been SS officers or guards in the concentration camps. It's really not an easy watch, but I suppose it is a very necessary watch, as that is the last of that generation, really, and the last chance it is to capture their testimonies on camera, I suppose. And then there's another documentary which I think we'll hear a lot more about probably across the coming year. This is the documentary I Am Greta, or Greta, by Nathan Grossman. And this is really a very fascinating look at a young woman who's just come to so much prominence. She's a global superstar now, and that's all really happened over the last year. And he's had access to her since 2018. And I suppose it's really looking at the girl behind the icon, as I suppose we could call her now.
And Greta was actually live via video link at the festival, wasn't she? Giving us all a lecture about how we need to pull our attention back onto the climate crisis. I was lucky enough to speak to the director of the film, I Am Greta. This is Nathan Grossman.
And since I don't fly because of the enormous climate impact of aviation, it's going to be a challenge.
I learned a lot about climate change and a lot about climate facts, which is really interesting. And about her, I think what surprised me most from the public persona that we've seen is actually that she's very funny and that she has this laughter, which is like my sound designers hated that laughter because it cut through every microphone and every headphone. So that laughter, I think, is something I will remember.
And did spending so much time with her make you make changes to your own life?
Yeah, but I think she rubbed off on me a lot of her things. I took the train down to Venice and I take the train back tomorrow. I think I also saw that some of the things that she kind of does, not eating lots of meat for me, or like being vegan, going on trains, it wasn't that hard actually.
And what does she think about her film being shown at the Venice Film Festival?
I think, Greta's never been in for this, like being a celebrity or anything. She's doing this to put focus on the climate crisis. That's her main goal. But I think she also said that in the press conference yesterday, and I remember we spoke about it when filming, that she was worried that the film, she wouldn't recognize herself, in the portrayal, that I would make her into someone else. And that when she watched the film, she actually recognized herself. So I think that made me very happy.
That was the director Nathan Grossman talking about his film that's here at the Venice Film Festival, I Am Greta. That brings us to the end of the show.
Yeah.
Final word about the festival this year, Emma?
It's a festival like no other. It's a year like no other, and I think that Venice, whatever it does end up winning the Golden Lion, it's not going to be judged on its films this year. Really, I think the only thing that Venice wants to get through is to make sure it isn't blamed for a COVID spike in Italy, really. So I think that's the benchmark for Venice this year.
Okay, well, let's cross our fingers. There have definitely been lots of safety checks in place at this year's film festival. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Emma, for your company.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you back in Paris very soon. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.